Welcome to the power of purpose. We know that all things works together for good. Whatever you have gone through in life, be it dark, rejection, pain, somehow it to align itself to build you, your character, to bring you to your destiny. Now, as you know that, and most of women love flowers. The Lord's flower either comes with thorns. So sometimes blessings comes with some burdens. But the question is, are you living life or are you surviving? Are you have to endure or are you enjoying? Relationships are often somehow a mystery. They come with a package. You have to choose, and choices are made. Today I have a special guest. She is the author. She's an amazing lady, and she's going to tell us a story in building up to some of the issues in relationship. Stay tuned. Ma'am, you are welcome.
Thank you.
To the power of purpose. Give us your background on how you grew up. Your parents, just tell us a little bit background of yourself.
All right. So I was born in Windhoek.
Okay.
I'm a born free, like they call them.
Oh,
so I was born after 90.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes. So I grew up in Windhoek. My first years of life, I think I've spent them more with my godmother. And then after that, with my parents. So I spent the first few years of my life with my godparents. They sort of had me almost every time. And with my parents, I would only go there maybe for holidays or something. But then after that, I stayed with my parents, both my parents. My parents are married. They're both still alive.
Okay.
So I grew up with my parents. And at the age of 3, my mom gave her life to Christ.
Okay, good.
So she dragged
When
me
you
to
were
church.
3
when
years
I was
old?
3 years old, yeah.
Wow.
So she dragged me to church every time. Being the youngest at that time,
Okay.
I had to go with her to church
I
at all
want you to
times.
clarify, because I believe Namibia is a Christian nation, and most people are Christians, whether be it Catholic, Lutheran,
Yeah.
Pentecostal. So when you say she gave her life to Christ, what do you really mean?
She became born again, like at a Pentecostal charismatic church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Yes.
Yeah, so she took me to church every time. So I didn't really grow up as a wild child.
Okay.
You know, those that went to parties. And because being 3 years old and seeing what my mom did, I went to church every time. I was in Sunday school, so I was taught what was right and what was wrong.
Yeah.
And I was taught that we are to do what is right. So I sort of grew up as a Christian.
Yeah.
And after a while, I only gave my life to Christ when I was 13, I think. That's the only time I understood what it was. I've been in church my whole life,
Yeah.
but I didn't really understand what it meant to give your life to Christ. And I think as we were taught growing up, and that's when I realized now, okay, I think I need to give my life to Christ now, because I understood then.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I went to high school.
Yeah.
I went to high school at Ashipena.
Okay. There is a difference before we go to the high school part. There is a difference just living with the parents
Yeah.
and experiencing their love. Did you enjoy or did you receive both parental love? And tell us about that.
Yeah, I believe so. I
Okay.
mean, but you know how it is in our black homes.
Okay.
Emotions are hardly expressed, by the way. So you have your mother and your father, they provide food for you. It's not really a thing of come here, I love you or whatnot. And then the other thing I think where our black families sort of portray love is how they discipline you.
Yeah.
You know, so they tell you don't do this, don't do that. But then also the one thing I liked about my mom and my dad is we always had whatever it is we needed, even though they didn't really have much. My mom was a domestic worker and my dad didn't really work for a long time. So he was without a job for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think he worked until I was in only when I was in primary school. But then my mom always made sure we were clean. We had uniforms at all times. You know, people thought we were from a rich background just because of how we presented ourselves.
Yeah.
Because like in school, kids would see that, okay, she has everything, so they thought we are from a rich background. But it's only because our parents made sure that we had everything, or at least we had the necessities, to get by in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the love, I'm sure the love was there, just not emotionally expressed, yeah.
How often did your father say he loves you?
My father is a very emotional one, by the way. So he said it quite a few times. He still says it until today.
Okay.
He's the one, if we show up and visit him, he would kiss us on the hand, sometimes cry. Yeah, he's pretty emotional. And my mom, on the other hand, I think it was a little bit difficult for her to express herself emotionally because she felt like she needed to be tough at times. So it wasn't really oftenly expressed. But as we grew, I think, and as she also got to know Christ and what love is, yeah, a few times here and there.
Okay. Moving forward, you were talking about moving into high school. How was it like now?
Yeah, it was okay.
Okay.
Personally, I am an introvert. Or maybe an introvert and an extrovert, depending on the situation and the people I'm with.
Yeah.
So going to high school, I didn't have a lot of friends.
Okay.
And I was hardly in cliques. But I had almost everyone around me. If I know you, yeah, we could talk. But like I said, growing up as a Christian, I didn't do parties. I didn't necessarily do sneaking out of the house.
Okay.
If there were events at school, I would not attend because I just felt it was not me. Yeah.
Was it not you, or it was the strictness of the house?
No, I did not like being around so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You're moving into adolescent. What pressures did you face, especially growing up in Windhoek, where you're exposed to so many things?
Okay, let me just take you a little bit back into childhood.
Yeah.
Is it growing up? When I was, I think I was 6 or 7, but between the ages of 6 and 7, I was at a different school.
Okay.
And when I was at that school, I was more of a very naughty child. But I guess it's the environment also. My big brother was there. My cousins were at that school. And a lot of my friends from the neighborhoods, my brother's friends, were also at that school. So I was a little bit of a bully. It was grade 1 and 2. So I grew up being very naughty at those ages. But it's that thing of, if you can't do anything to me, I'll tell my brother. And then when I moved schools, I literally transformed. I was this quiet, sweet girl.
What about the transformation?
Honestly,
from being naughty, crazy, bully, and then
honestly, I
introvert?
don't know, but now that I think of it, like I said, I'll take you a bit back. When I was 6, I was raped, like at home. Whenever I would come from school, there was always a cousin who would look after me. But then I was the youngest, so my brothers only came home later. Because I was the youngest girl. My sisters were already probably in high school, but they were hardly home. So there was a guy that looked after me every time. And, being a child and you don't understand these things, you don't know what this is, he had a way of explaining sexual things to me. And having me practice them with him, but I didn't understand what it was. So I think at the age of 8, when I went to a different school, that only then, really, these talks also came. If a person touches you this way, it's not okay. If they're a guy and you're a child, all of this. And only then I realized that actually what I went through was actually rape. And it was a consistent and a constant thing. But I didn't know what it was. So I think maybe that's actually what triggered the whole transformation, because I became a very different person. I became quiet. I didn't associate with so many people. Yeah, and I think it led to me being the type of person I am today, being an introvert.
Did he somehow break your self-esteem or your perception?
He broke a lot of things.
Okay.
Yes, because having realized, like I spoke about it in the book as well. Having understood what it was, and my love for writing, I didn't talk to anybody back then. I started expressing myself in writing, but it was a whole lot of angry writing, because only then I realized, okay, really what was done to me was wrong, but then I started blaming it on myself, because I didn't know. So I was like, if I had known then what I know now, then that would have not happened, or I would have reported it. Because he stayed with us for a while, and after some time, he left. After some time, he left, and then I think after then I've only seen him once in my life, and that's about it. I don't even know where he is now. So,
Did you ever go to tell your parents about what happened?
yeah, like this year.
And it happened to you at 6 years,
Yes.
and now you only
Yeah.
told your parents this year.
Yeah, because at some point when I was writing the book, that was the very first thing I wrote. And then when I continued with the book, I removed it
Okay.
from the book. And then my editor felt like there's something missing because there's so many things, but they had no background.
Yeah.
It's like you think this way, but what led to
What
you
caused
thinking?
it,
Yeah,
yes.
thinking that way.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, there was a part in the book that I removed because I didn't feel comfortable with it being there because I never faced it. I never really got to talk about it,
Yeah.
you know. So he was like, okay, what was it? And then I sent him what I had written, and he's like, yeah, this is the core of the book. This is what led to you actually being the type of person you are and you writing this book.
Yeah.
So and then I put it in the book. But honestly, I'm not sure if my mom knew, because you know how parents can be also. They pick up things.
Yeah,
They
and
pick
they
out,
don't
and they don't really
Express it or
express
say
or
it.
talk about them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if she didn't know, if my mom did not know, she only got to know this year.
Yeah.
That's now from the book, from after I started writing
How did
the
she
book.
feel about it, only finding it out
We
now?
have not spoken about it.
She just found out and she's too quiet and you're still quiet.
Yeah.
You haven't sat down and say, okay, let's talk about this issue. Why?
I don't know, ignorance and probably just, you know how the mind hardly wants to go back to the things of the past because, and that's how healing takes place.
Okay.
But then we sort of, every time we shut it out. Because I mean, the only way you can get healed,
You confront
need
what
to go to
happens.
the wound and clean it because now it's not, it has clotted
Yes.
and it needs cleaning in order to heal properly. But that going back, because it's still a difficult and painful process, I'm sure it would be.
Yes.
So I think I've just sort of let it be. A lot of people did not know that. I mean, or most of people I've actually associated with did not know that about me. Even
Yeah.
growing up, you know, it's like this perfect girl, she's kind, she's nice, and you know, people would talk and it's like, no, I mean, because they think they know my whole life since I've grown up in church. They would make the statement of, no, like Sarah, I mean, she's kept herself. And I'm like, yeah. And it started hurting me.
Yeah.
It started actually tearing me apart, like, but
It's not
I'm
true.
not. It's not true, you know.
Yeah.
And when people would talk about sex, it was a very bad image for me, and I was like,
A battle in the closet.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was always like that. So I always felt like, okay, I'm not worthy, and I'm also not necessarily worthy for a correct relationship or for marriage because I mean, I'm not the person that people think I am. I think I've beaten myself up so much, you know, also forgetting that God actually, He transforms people, He renews people, and He takes all those things that we've gone through, He takes them and, you know, He deals with them in a certain manner that we are able to heal. You know, but I think I've battled with things myself and understood like, okay, it happened. So, and then it left me looking this way now, you know, that sort of thing.
So basically your teenage adolescent stage was a bit of struggle
Yeah.
of who people says I am and who really I am.
Yeah, it was an
and trying to
identity
find
struggle.
yourself in there. Are there deep regrets that you wish if you were to turn back the hands of time, you could just go back and refix that particular thing?
You know, when we started, when we were just, you know, practicing, you said, what are your regrets? And I said, I don't have any.
Okay, yeah.
I've heard regrets,
Yes.
heard past tense, because I didn't necessarily understand everything that happens in life.
Yeah.
You know, the main verse for this show says, all things work together for good. And that verse continued to say that to them that love God and are called according to His purpose.
True.
Yes, a lot of things has happened in my life, and thinking about them, I wish I could go back and turn back the time and have them happen a different way. But then I would not be who I am today if I go back and turn back time. You understand?
Yeah.
So everything that has happened for a reason. For me to be sitting here today and speak about my story, that's why a lot of things have happened.
Yeah.
So I don't regret them anymore.
Yeah.
Because God has turned them for
It
good.
has been part of the process
Yes, it
somehow.
has, exactly. It has been part of the process. And they happened. I've been hurt. I've also hurt people. There's a lot of things that happened, and I'm sure a lot of people go through things that hurt them.
Yeah.
And they just wish they could turn back time and live a different life. But you won't be who you are today. And you wouldn't be as inspirational as you are today if you go back and turn back time.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it's our pastor who likes saying that, sometimes he would want to pray the prayer of, Lord, take me back to being young, but take me back with the same mind that I have today, Because now you understand that you could have done things differently. You don't want to go back as that young person that messed up, but you want to go back with that understanding.
Yes.
But then then there would be no testimony. There's a saying that says, you only know that God is a healer when you are sick.
Wow.
You understand? You only know that he saves if you've been lost before. That's the only way the power of God is shown. So having gone through all that I went through, the power of God is now being revealed. That even though you've messed up, even though you've been messed with, even though I've been raped, today I'm married.
Yeah.
You understand? And I never even wanted to get married because I felt I was unworthy of that. But the Lord turned that around. That's why I don't regret. I used to regret a lot. Like, I even actually, for a moment, like in my grade 12, I turned into depression, serious depression. You understand? But that's because I looked at the past so much, and I would think about the hurt.
Drowning into the past.
Yes, like if only I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have gone through all these things. But little did I know, the Lord was preparing me to touch somebody.
Yeah.
Because life goes on, and there's those that actually are going through what I went through. And they need somebody to tell them that you will be able to come out of it. They need someone to tell them there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If I keep regretting and thinking about wanting to go back in time to change what I've been through, then I would be wrong, and I would actually be, I would be neglecting the power of God.
Yeah.
Because in order for Him to change our lives, we must have been through things that need change. Yeah, so I don't regret anything anymore.
Wonderful. That's a great saying. Beside the process to where God has set you up now, there's been a lot of things you are grateful for.
A lot.
Okay? So tell us some of the achievement that going through the dark into the light, what are those some of the greatest moments in your life?
I think one of the greatest is God not giving up on me. Because, there were, like, when I was deep in depression, I had suicidal thoughts. I've thought of, taking my life because I felt unworthy, you understand?
Yeah.
And because He is God and He has a plan, He's always had a plan for my life, He made sure that I was unable to actually take the life that He has given me.
Yeah.
Because there's something He wanted to do with my life, And the fact that, I always say to people that I live by grace, you understand? Because there's so many things I would not have achieved. I would not have gone to United
Unmerited favor, yeah.
Yeah, because of the life I've been in, and even when I look at, like I said, my mom was a domestic worker. She would not have afforded to take me to the university. And unfortunately, I didn't have a loan. So we had to pay out of our pockets. So that lady paid.
Your man.
Yes. And
the domestic worker paid for a girl to graduate from the university.
You understand? And
yes.
I remember there were times when I would look at her payslip and it's like $2,000. And she had to loan from her boss so that she could pay for my studies. You understand? That can only be God. Because she was not only taking care of me, there was my brother that I come after. He was still not very grown and he didn't have a job. And there's my little brother. And not only that, but then she had at the time she had a grandkid, a boy, and then after that there was a girl and another boy, you understand? So she had to take care of a lot of people, but still God made sure that I went to school. I was always clothed, you understand? And irregardless of the many things I've gone through, God has actually sort of, He's taken me through all that, and I can testify today that there is a God because I'm still alive,
yes.
first of all, and I have a good job now.
Yeah.
You understand? And I'm married to one of the, like, he's a blessing. He's I can say he's the greatest guy ever. You know, him being my husband and all
So,
that.
in a nutshell, you are a graduate.
Yes.
The successful stuff. You are a married, when others are struggling to get one.
So I've been
you
graced,
are
I've
married.
been blessed with an amazing
And then
man.
you are an author.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me the process of now publishing your story that you just told us into the book. How was the process?
That was a very, very difficult one, because what led to this book, like I said in the beginning, I used to write a lot, and I was an angry writer. If you look at my previous writings, you know, it's years. And I was an angry writer. I was angry at life. I was angry at men and all that. And before my husband found me, my husband and I have been friends for over 10 years.
Yeah, I remember
before.
we used to come to visit Penda in his studio and,
Yes.
play around and, do that stuff.
Yeah. I remember you now. Yes, it's true.
Yes.
So we've been friends. He and I have been friends for a very long time. And I remember he asked me out before when we were still friends, and I was like, "You're my brother."
Yeah, we hung in the same house. We drink Oskundu together.
In a music group called Covenant Movement, and Penda, me, and D. So we were like brothers and sisters, man. So before I finally said yes to him, I was in a relationship.
Okay.
That relationship broke me, literally, because
Shattered you.
he was Christian, I was a Christian, and I thought, this is it.
Yeah.
You understand? So I was like, now I've been found. I mean, he's Christian. What could go wrong? And things went wrong, It broke me literally, and I was like, you see,
that's
this
one of
is
the things
what
I was trying to
didn't want.
avoid, yeah.
And it happened. So I was like, I am so done. I'm done with relationships. I'm done with anything that has to do with men and relationships. I was like, I mean, if a Christian can do that to you, something that a non-Christian is supposed to do. I mean, because that's how we believe that if you're Christian, you're supposed
must
to be
be transformed.
good.
Yeah,
you should be renewed. Your mind should be transformed.
Transformed, yes.
So I was done. And then I started writing, and that's how this book came about. So I started writing, and I needed to heal somehow, So I started praying for myself also, because I started having so many negative thoughts, and that was not healthy for me, Because at the time, I was a youth leader, also at church, and I have kids coming to me needing help, and all of this, and I started feeling this is not right.
Struggling with the same struggles you're struggling.
Exactly, and I was like, I need to sort my life out. So I started praying for myself. I started praying for healing. And, as time went on, the Lord has been healing me. And then, there are those that are meant to be alone, like Paul in the Bible.
Yeah.
But there are those that are meant to be married.
Yes.
Sometimes it's God just for him to work in your purpose correctly, so that, you need somebody to work in that purpose with you. And there are those that are really, that can do it alone, and God has graced them with that. So I realized, okay, I don't think I'm called to be alone. I would want to get married someday.
So basically, you have struggled, and you finally said, I'm going to focus on my purpose. He that comes has to find me in the vineyard of my purpose.
Exactly. I told the Lord that I want to be found by different. Somebody who is different, because I felt like I've seen how people are, and they seem
you
to
felt like you're attracting the same kind of...
they seem to be just the very same. There's no difference. And I told the Lord that, you know what? I'm not going to pray for a man anymore. I'm not going to pray for you to transform me, because what I need is healing. So that if I am found, if I'm ever to be found by someone, they must find me healed,
whole, complete.
Exactly. And that's what I always say to people, that after a breakup, you don't need another relationship. You need healing. You don't need a relationship to heal you, If you're heartbroken, you shouldn't be dating. You should be healing. And then only then, because you need to understand yourself and what you've gone through. So I prayed, and I let the Lord be. And I remember the first time my husband asked me out, I was like, what? But then, for the first time, it was very weird, because, he's done it before, like 3 other times, but it was so normal, like, no. But this time was very different. I got so nervous. I was like, what? No. And then I was like, you know what? I'll give you an answer. I think it was after a month or something, I'll give you an answer on the same date, but the following month, And because it was probably the right thing, so many other things started coming up again.
Yeah.
Everybody who was in my life and ever wanted to marry me started coming back.
With the proposals of marriage.
Yes. All of a sudden, so it was like a whole confusing
So you have
moment.
3-4 people trying to propose marriage at the same time.
At the same time, so it was confusing. But I knew that what I want is God.
Yeah.
Somebody who puts God first and talks to God about me.
Okay.
You know, I didn't want just anyone who seemed to be Christian, because I've been hurt by a Christian. So I didn't want anyone who says they're Christian and they understand. I was like, okay, someone who puts God first and not me.
Okay.
Someone who can give me different answers. And so I did that with my husband. I asked him questions. And the answers he gave were very different. It had very little to do with me and more to do with God. And that's why I realized that, okay, he's very different. Because he once told me that he does not know how to love, but he knows God, and God is love. So it's God who's going to show him how to love me.
Great. Thank you so much. If you're out there, more of this story, exciting, the process to be found. I know there are single people there out listening. You have been broken many times. You have been hurt. You somehow received a rose flower with thorns, and you grabbed on the thorns and you have been bleeding. You want to get hold of this book. Be found. And you're going to get more information, transformation. Trust me, this work is the greatest testimony to transform your life. It is not over. You are in the process. All things work together. You are in the process. Final words for the youth out there.
You know, when you said Namibian youth, and I was like struggling with identity issues,
Yes.
you know, and I feel this is how a lot of people are, because I've worked with a lot of young people.
Yes.
I stay with a lot of young people, and they have identity crisis in their lives, you know. So the one thing I would want to say to young people out there is, you've been created. So you have a manufacturer, and that's God. And he made you, and he understands who you are. So if you want to find your true identity about who you are, you need to go back to your maker, and that is God. That is the only way you will understand what your purpose is and who you really are. Today we are defined by clothes, we're defined by trends that go on around, we are defined, as women, we are defined by men. If I cannot be proposed, then I'm nothing. If a man is not looking at me the way he's looking at other men, then I have a low self-esteem. You see, those are things that are defining a lot of our young people today, you know.
The likes on social media.
Exactly, how many likes you would get when you post a picture, how many people interact with you, who greets you, who says what, you know. But those are not the things that are supposed to define us. We are to be defined by our maker. And we can only be defined by him if we have a relationship with him. So I would say to the young people, find your manufacturer, have a relationship with him, and you will know who you are.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It is a blessing and a pleasure to have her. You have heard it for yourself. Now, it is not the end. There is still grace, sunshine on the other side of the mountain. You might be still on the other side where it's dark, seems hopeless. Keep on digging that mountain. Find right people who can guide you. Find good friends, counselors, all those that can help you into the process so that you can be found. We are a lot of young ladies struggling. But first understand it's not the man you need. Who are you? That's a power of purpose. And thank you for sharing your story.